Welcome, friends and people and scoundrels and stuff. My name's Bran,
And I'm Barry.
and this is Bluff's Reach. Almost. What is
Almost.
that? Alliterative?
It,
Alliterative.
I think it is. I mean,
Almost.
it's not.
The
It's
reach.
not figurative, is it? Yet.
No, I was going for alliteration.
Oh, you
Bran, Barry, and Bluff's Reach.
Oh. Yeah, I like that.
But the reach throws it off. Throws
No,
off the
I think
alliteration.
no, I mean,
Because alliteration
it's almost
is
a
starting
haiku.
with the
It's
same.
almost a haiku.
Anyways.
I'm not even,
Welcome to Bluff's Reach.
we're gonna cut that out, aren't we?
where this guy and I are just going to ramble about stuff a little bit
in a structured, rambling sort of way, as we do.
Yeah. So we tried recording this once before, and it was quite the mess.
It was. Here's the thing. It was so good that human ears can't hear it because that will fix everything in the world.
All right,
right?
PJ, bring it back.
It'll feel like it's like the theorem. It's like calculus.
We haven't gotten to robot ears yet.
Just this is gonna save the world from robots. Those little Wally ain't gonna get none of my Wally.
I mean, there's a place for Wally.
There's a place where I love Wally.
There's a place for Johnny Five.
There's a place for Johnny Five too. But I love them both. Okay, isn't Wally just?
T800 we could do without.
He got good hugs, right? Good hug pressure.
Anyways, so this is a podcast where Barry and I are gonna talk about some serious stuff in probably not very serious ways.
Cause Wally,
apparently. So today's episode, we're just kind of introducing ourselves. Like I said, we tried to do this before, where we just started talking and then talked over each other.
Not at all.
And
do we have a sponsor for this one? Bad Socks
that,
Coffee,
right there.
Wow, that's against a lot
it's
of
a
things.
bird.
It's a plane. Anyway.
No.
Anyway. Wait, are you a Batman guy or a Superman guy?
Batman.
See? That's why I hate you.
Superman's the worst.
No, Superman's the real, so we're going to go off on a tangent. We're not going to go off on a tangent. Superman has more depth. He's a harder character to write. Like, Batman appeals to, like, all that little selfish emo in us. Like, the teen, like, the angst, the drama. Oh, Batman.
That's how I feel about Batman, is he's the deep one, and Superman's just a
Superman,
Boy Scout.
Superman, no, he's not. Like, well, he
It
is,
depends on
who
the writer is, too.
Let's not go there at all.
And what background they're giving him.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're right on that note, but Superman is like a character who is out of place no matter what he does. Like, he wants to fit in, right? He's a god, right? But all the god wants is to be the mortal person. He wants to be the everyman. That's why he's and then they shy away from it and they make him like, what asteroid can we punch today with Superman?
Yeah.
That's the problem. People, the understanding, the depth, anyway, the funness. Like One Punch Man, they did the same thing, but they mixed it up a little bit more. You know, there's different angles to it they played on. They played on the comedic side of that. You know, there's all that stuff. Anyways,
this is not a comic book podcast. This is serious real life issues.
It is. It's heavy. This is. Oh man, deep, dark. Batman.
Oh, you're Batman.
Okay. Stop.
So, back on track. Train on the rails.
Rails.
I
Is there
don't know where
damsel
this
on the
train's
wheel?
going,
Rails
no.
for Batman to save?
So our first introductory episode we tried to do, we just tried to run it off the cuff, and we talked about a lot of really good things.
We had some great subjects and some great, it was good conversation.
For me and you, but
for conversation purposes, yeah.
For other people listening to it,
it was bad. I mean, it would, again, the theorem.
So this time we're going to try to be a little bit more structured and give each other space to talk. Right?
Yeah.
You can respond.
I know. I was waiting. I was waiting for that to sink in. Oh yeah.
So we've each written down 4 things that like are kind of core to our personalities, core to ourselves.
For me,
our philosophies.
Yeah, moving forward type things, right? Because
just things that have been important to us for a long time, like those deep-rooted foundational elements.
If you don't let me touch on that, like I'm not sure if they've been. I wasn't aware they've been important to me until like maybe the last 8 years, maybe even the last 6 years. But at the core, they have been. They've drawn me in different directions, and I, although I may have struggled and floundered a lot, they've been there.
Yes. And that's probably how it goes for most people. You don't realize that these things are important to you until really you just have to stop and look at yourself. Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror.
Right.
Take a look at Man in the Mirror.
Well, it's that question that's in the back of your mind, Neo.
There is no spoon.
That was a Matrix, but
didn't you call me Neo?
Neo, I did, yeah. But the thing is that's when you say, "What is the Matrix?" Gosh dang it. Okay, anyway, gosh darn it. But yeah, it is. I think there is an itch. There's something in the back of your mind. There's something when you look at yourself in the mirror. And like even as we move forward within life, and I'm not gonna like paint the trappings of life in this world we live in, what they can do and what pitfalls we can fall into. But there are for everyone. Everyone has their own pitfalls, and even if you're hitting all those 5 stars and you're making your way, defining yourself is important, I think, and it helps people relate to you. And I think that it helps you relate to people, and actually, especially if you're somebody who is like, unlike myself, not like myself, but like successful, who they still want this communicated. They still want to understand these things, and
a lot of people who are very successful have that curiosity and
knowing oneself,
seek those things out.
Yeah.
But it kind of funny that we're on this already because it's actually one of my 4 pillars.
Well, hey, there you go. That's awesome. That's there you go. That's natural. That proves our point.
Because this is like my identity has been a struggle for me for a long time. It's something that I've been trying to figure out for myself who I am.
Do you find that when you talk to people, when we have these conversations, does it become more clear?
Sometimes. Like I'm either solidifying what I already think and feel, or there's a crack that happens in something that I think and feel, and it grows. That crack grows and fill it in with this new information or whatever it is. If that makes sense, the metaphor there.
No, I'm with you. So I just want you to clarify: is the crack like a fault in your beliefs, or is it like is a branch of a tree, as you like to do the tree thing? Is it a branch like leading off to this is good growth, or is it a crack in like the armor type of thing? If you don't mind,
kind of a crack in the armor.
Okay,
a little bit. Like,
is it a bad thing or a good thing?
Good thing.
Okay.
Usually,
yeah, because is bad.
Metaphorically. Well, the armor metaphor isn't necessarily great, but Japanese who. They have the pottery when it breaks, they fill it in.
Yeah.
More like that, right? That. So
you're saying
I have this belief or idea.
A mended bone. Sometimes, often, when we break a bone, when it's reset, it's stronger.
Can be.
Yeah, that's what it can be. I'm not saying it's every time.
Like I have an idea about something, and that conversation may strengthen that idea because. Either I find the right pieces for it, or it gets strengthened through, or maybe I have to back off a little bit and reconsider it and
rethink it and give more thought to it,
or just maybe sometimes you just need to let an idea go.
Yeah, and that's actually really good. I hope we're still within your realm there, but to come back, self-identification. Especially for us to question, what we feel is important
and
because
who we are.
Yes,
and a lot of that comes like before and this is gonna touch back on our tangent already. When I'm growing up here, in this town, I was like, I had a reputation and I was known as Batman. Like,
right.
That was my nickname. Yeah. That's how people knew me. And then through, girlfriends and whatnot, I became a broken, very different person.
Yeah.
And that's when because before I felt fairly confident in who I was.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still young, so.
You're still learning who you. Yeah, you're confident. But still malleable.
I'm an anarchist. Yeah. I've always been an anarchist.
And when you say that,
before myself broke, I had that exploration with myself. I'm like, am I a Democrat or a Republican? Because I believe these things that the Democrats believe in, but I'm also for these things that Republicans believe in. And, I'm very much against these things and very much against those things. Like, where do I actually land? And, I defaulted to Democrat because they're the quote-unquote good guys.
Right.
As far as the Overton window is concerned. Or, political thinking, to be more accurate with that.
I'm with you.
But it wasn't very long after that I really explored that more. No, I'm an anarchist.
Mm-hmm. When you say are you speaking just strictly political? Because I'm somebody who.
Well, that's just an example.
Okay.
Of how long I've been exploring myself. Okay. That I have to know who I am.
Yeah.
But that breaking of myself with, hard relationships and hard breakups and stuff, changing for a person, whether intentionally or not.
Yeah.
Because you are my one. I want to be with you, and these are the things I have to do to be with you. And
I think that's an interesting. People go through that at many stages in their life, so it's interesting that you can have that.
Name changes. I've done name changes. I went by Scott for a long time. That's why I started going by Bran. I pulled the Scott back. Started going by Bran because new name, new identity, new place. I can be more akin to what I want to be.
Yeah.
And that was just a transitionary period, really, I think. Which, talking about this as we were just talking about, is bringing growth. That revelation to me.
You're going to, time, like I was saying earlier, like we were talking about, time is going to move forward. Time is changing everything. Again, so you're going to change whether you want to or not. And if you have the wherewithal to realize this and say, okay, well, I want to change. Because a lot of people do want to change different things about themselves, no matter what. Very few people are like, well, I'm cool. I'm 100% secure with everything. God bless that person because I'm not them. Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm sure God Emperor Trump has things that he wants.
Yeah, man. And relating back to, you being an anarchist, it's funny. Honestly, I'm from the state of Washington, right? So you have the two, you have, the loggers, and then you have the straight, as we know Washington to be these days. And so
you were probably living there during the grunge days.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was, Nirvana, all that stuff. Man, I went to garage bands, garages when they were nothing. I was 13-year-old Barry up in because they were an hour away from where I was born.
Yeah.
And so, seeing some of that stuff. Anyway, going back, and as an artist, I never cared about politics and didn't want to until the last, again, 10 years, 8 years, until politics
cared about you,
cared about me, until they've been forcing their way into everything, it seems like, and that's a whole other discussion. I just want to touch on that because when you said anarchist, because I push back against things that just don't feel right, no matter where, I'm with, so I'm a Superman fan. Mm-hmm. Well, if Superman starts doing this or that, I'm like, okay, well, that's not cool no more. I'm not really gonna,
It's funny though too with that Superman Batman thing because Superman's very orderly,
right?
Lawful, right. By the book, where Batman on the surface at the very least seems more chaotic, more anarchistic.
And that's a whole nother thing, but I like what you're saying right there for sure. That's a whole other discussion, isn't it? If you go to you put point of other lives that we're talking about, but I think it's a good reflection of a lot of children also you know, of kids. You know, there's because we again going rambling a little bit here, but going back to identification, like, you know, who are we? Children, like, that's one of the biggest things. Once you start becoming a teenager and hitting those things that you care about this or that, man, that's a big conversation. Even into your 20s. I mean, I think it's a life thing. It's a life thing.
It is an ongoing thing.
Yeah, it is a life thing. Like, I still absolutely am trying to, you know, who am I and what can I be? You know, what can I be perceived as, and be, you know, and have success, because no one wants to, like, as much as we want to believe that, you know, I'll finish real quick here. As much as we want to believe that, you know, any man could be an island or any woman could be an island, we are people of social nature. We have to find our niche within society, and we have to do it without destroying too many things. We want to push back. We absolutely, that's self-expression. That's finding out that you are, you know, your own individual.
That's part of how you learn yourself,
and that is part of society. But yeah, no, anyone questioning things like that is always going to keep on moving forward. Again, that goes back to, you know, you know, being aware of being improving, because time is moving forward.
Well, and you know, the real important aspect of this, and what's probably more helpful to the listener out there in this little bit of this conversation here, is why it's so important for you to know and understand yourself, because you can't move forward properly without knowing who you are already and knowing where you want to be.
Yeah, like the rut. People will feel like I'm in a rut. I haven't done anything. Like what that's why there's always a new year, new me type thing. You know, because like that appeals to a large population.
And how few people actually truly properly know themselves.
Yeah. But we'll have goals. There's a goal thing too we can touch on.
But yeah, that's part of what I was saying, is that, like, you can't set goals. You can't determine what changes need to be made, what you're still comfortable with, what is a foundational element to your being. Like, you know, Star Wars and comic books, and you know, Batman is
the important things. Yeah.
Well, it was just like, for me, Star Wars, Batman, X-Men. These are things from my childhood that shaped my personality. Like, when I was still just a lump of clay, it started
hitting you one way and pushing another way. Do you think it's important to almost lost my thought, but do you think it's important to really have that bullseye in mind, or do you think it's more important to say, well, I'm going to shoot in all these different directions and try to find what I'm going to hit? Because I know there are two different thoughts of people, and I've known both lines of thought that become successful. And I'm not saying one can't. I'm not saying there's not contextual
realistically, and I know this isn't how people want this stuff, but it is kind of subjective. It's situational.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, realistically, it is better to at least have an idea of where the target's at, rather than just shooting blindly. Right. Because you can shoot blindly and never hit your goal. Yep. You know, it's more akin to being, you know, adrift in the river. Are you gonna be on, even if you're, you know, climbing a log and can direct yourself? Like, do you want to just float along, or do you want to ride along? Yeah.
Well, again, that's very nice. No, that's I was a question, because as somebody who was just trying to, through my whole youth, I just kind of thought that I was just, I'm talented. I'm just going to go where the talent takes me, and it led me on a very bumpy road a lot of times.
Some people get very lucky that way.
Yeah, some people do. I wasn't one of them. You know, it's just I'm just saying, like, that's fine. The majority,
unimaginably vast majority, don't get lucky.
But there, there was my brother, for example, had understandings and goals that, he was more matured in that way and knew he had to have a bullseye to hit. There's a saying, I heard it from Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not sure if it's his quote, but he says, the quote is, you have the most beautiful, fancy yacht or ship with a beautiful, fancy, scenic view and stuff, but without no captain and without no destination, where you're just going to be adrift. You know what I mean? So be that captain, find your destination, and it helps me a lot when I've been able to, as I've put thought into it and try to really nail down what's important to me. Yeah, it's helped a lot in little things, and when I start just getting too excited and too many fun things, as they say, especially with social media these days, we can bring that to almost home to all the distractions, that the apps pose,
and that's
that's a whole other.
I can definitely say that as somebody who's been just flowing along with the river for a long time. I wish I'd found like YouTube and podcasting and stuff much earlier. Because high school, like so many people, I wanted to be a rock star.
Really, I want to be a superhero, but
it's hard to do in a small town. Not impossible. There are plenty of bands that made it.
Yeah.
Slipknot doesn't count. Des Moines is a pretty big city.
It is. Des Moines, Iowa was pretty big. I mean,
but and that's part of what drove me to the Navy, was trying to find those right people.
Okay. Was that like a place, or was that like a place to have revenue, which would lead an education, which would lead to revenue?
The Navy?
Yeah.
It was searching for opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah. And I found plenty of opportunity. I learned a lot about myself at that time. Yeah. When you're sitting on a boat in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night by yourself, you've got a lot of time to self-reflect.
You do.
But that's where I learned that I can, if I want to, write fairly decently. Mm-hmm. And I've always been creative, artistic, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
That was the other word I was looking for.
Creative?
Yes.
You're welcome. I had nothing to do with that. Do you think that most people... So, I really believe that everyone is creative. It's just not everyone gives themselves time to explore that. And it's so nuanced. There are so many things that we can be creative in.
That's kind of what I was going to go to. Okay. Is identifying exactly what creativity is.
Oh, well.
Because for a lot of people, you say creative and they think...
Now we're professors.
And they think the arts, though.
They do. No, anytime you say creativity, people associate that with some sort of art, of the general arts, writing, painting, drawing, all that good stuff.
Writing, singing,
musically, yeah.
But it does go beyond that, because creativity is...
Well, I mean, building an engine, woodwork, all these different crazy, gardening, cooking.
My job.
Yeah, repairman is absolutely the same skills that I take from my art skills. I've been able to carry them through to everything that I like gardening, repairing something that's broken here, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm.
And the art probably helps you with your dexterity a bit, but
I think there's a lot of things that help relate to everything. I think that's such a nuance. There are actual art professors and people who, are 30, 40 years older than us that spend hours talking about this with each other in classes and together, and they've had more that. Creativity is one of the great discussions.
But creativity is more than just literally creating something.
It is more than that general arts.
It's also about...
Are you gifted?
Being able to think on your feet,
yes,
and come up with a solution, in sometimes very stressful situations. Sometimes you just need
that
to think outside of the box, and that comes from creativity.
That's stressful. That's another discussion for me, because to me, I've been I fought fires for 6 years, and there's different stressful things. Anyone can be in a stressful situation. But the thing I find the most that relates high performance to a stressful situation is being comfortable. Being and that can relate to familiarity within the situation or your surroundings or whatever it is. There has to be something that ties you to point A and where you can go. How where is my go-to?
Your self-confidence.
And yeah, well, I think that's to me again. I'm sorry, but this is to me again that is absolutely. Are you comfortable? Because try being self-confident if you're not comfortable.
Yeah, no, and that's something that comes naturally with training.
Yeah, practice, familiarity with their all that.
And exercises, and even if it's not the real thing, like just going through those motions, like
that's like practice and training and stuff.
It's programming for your brain that when the situation does actually hit, you are better.
You have some place to start. I
know a lot of people like to smash on horror movies and if I was in this situation, you don't know what you
It's an unknown. That's the whole fun of it. It's an unknown. But you're taking fantastical things and doing this.
But like so many people are so confident that I'd run away or I'd do this. Why wouldn't run up the stairs? No, you probably would.
Yeah, and the news is proof of that. If you tune in sometimes.
But being in the Navy, how many cops out there think they're hot crap, and then
something happens,
and then they get faced with the real shit, and
and I'm nothing, nothing to that manner or nature, but you hear a lot of people saying, just touching on that, how many special forces guys who have buddies or brothers that go and say, hey, we're gonna do a special training thing. Tim Kennedy, for example, has a story about that. It's really good, where he's like, these guys just don't have enough training.
Yeah,
there's just and that's a thing, But I'm gonna digress a little bit. That's going off in another direction. But being comfortable to me, like really, when you're able to act under pressure, that's a big thing. Going back to artistic expression. Again, to me, it's really where can you hang your hat? What is comfortable? What you're comfortable with, and where can you spider web out from with that?
And going back to that is knowing yourself.
Yep. Knowing yourself, exactly. What is your
knowing the things that you enjoy and what you're passionate about? Because if you want to be a writer, but you just I struggle with it sometimes. I do want to write,
absolutely.
And part of it's time, but part of it is also I can only really write when the mood hits me.
See,
or when I become really inspired.
That's something that's something I'm personally working on. Right, I have multiple things I've worked on for last 10 years. My friend Chris, who's an English professor, knows this because I'm always talking to him. Me and him wrote or outlined and drafted, very very rough drafted a few of these ideas. Going back to he and I worked on comics together back 12 years ago now. But everyone I've been posting on Facebook, which I don't do much anymore. But I posted. I believe everyone does and should write. Everyone has a book in them.
Well, let's get into some of yours because you kind of getting on a line of focus here.
Okay. Well, as a point, the first one I do have is focus.
I know. That's why I segued.
So, I hate you sometimes.
I hate myself.
That's all right. It's all good. So again, this goes back to things we've touched on already a lot. As we grow, as we age, especially I think in this day and age, I really believe it's once you hit your 30s, it seems like is a big turning point for a lot of people's life. You're no longer a youth. Right, you can't say I'm in my 20s. So people make a big deal about being 30, which I never did. I never got that.
I think it's because historically, probably we're not meant to live as long as we do.
Right.
So you're at the top of the hill.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with that's where all our big pop icons and sports icons. Most of we know them as their best is in their 20s. Post 30, you're almost over the hill. And these things are huge to our culture. Mm-hmm. So, but going back to
until you hit the sunset years for some of them.
I mean, again, people. There's people are as we have this level of comfort in it. That's historic in society and cultures. People are doing things at older ages than they different things that they haven't done, things that would have done people in the past would have done in their 20s or 30s. People were doing in their 40s and 50s even, and sometimes maybe even 60s. But that's again, be thankful for the luxury we live within, because a lot of people aren't these days and don't quite grasp that. But focusing on like having an idea or something you want to aim at, again, it registers with self-identity, what's important to you, and where do you want to go. Even if you don't hit this, it's good to try. It's important to try. It's important to fail. It's important to give your all to something. And especially if you fail, because a lot of people don't start. Like, so we've all heard this. Like, we've heard this. I've heard this for years before I actually understood why. But everyone says, it's been said for decades, that being afraid of failing stops us from starting, right? Like, no one wants to do something and fail. It is so important that you do that very thing. That if you believe that you fail, it's even more important that you do it. Why? Because that means it is important to you. If you're afraid to fail at something, then you need to do that thing. That tells you what's important. Or you can just live your life being mundane and being bored and make excuses for yourself, because you will. That is the path that it leads you down. It really does. I'm not a young man anymore, and I can speak from experience. When I do go for things, and even if I fail at them, it feels wonderful. And I keep up, because you never stop. If you believe in that, you won't stop. You'll keep going.
Okay, so interesting thing.
Yeah.
A little bit.
No, it's not.
As a younger man, I always believe, like, when I have kids, that's when it's really gonna. But because that's when things are gonna be really serious for me. Like,
okay,
quit smoking, and I'm gonna do all the adulting, right?
All the adulting happens, right? Okay, I'm with you.
But like, that is kind of how my life turned out. Is that a result of me thinking that? Because if I'd have thought differently when I was younger, I would have made much better choices. Obviously.
Right, because you gave yourself leeway time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I did the same thing in a way, like, and I still do in a way, which I think a lot of people do maybe fall into that trap of saying, okay, once I do this, okay, I'm going to wise up, or I'm going to shape up. Or I can start like living this way, because like I've been a bachelor more or less my whole life, and I kind of like, I have my reasons for that, and I have, some things are outside of our control, honestly. Mm-hmm. And there is a frame of thought I can tell you from being a bachelor is once I do settle down, I'll start paying attention to these things more and being more mature in this way. And I've thought that way for a long time until, I'd say the last 5 years. I think then I really started.
Oh man, I've got like 20 years left.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna expire in 20 years. I better get my.
Well, no, like no, I know, but that's been a huge thing.
It is.
Me
that's absolutely
personally is like looking like I'm looking down the barrel.
Yeah,
65 is not that far away now.
No.
At 20, 25 years, like,
and
what's my retirement gonna look like?
What's the world gonna look like? For goodness' sake, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that, like, why worry about it? But at the same time, like, what
well, you have to understand, better? Right? Yeah, we have to understand that things are going to change.
So
how
there's
we prepare
between worrying and preparing.
Yes,
for things.
Preparing for something.
And that's like what I'm looking at now. It's like, what am I going to be doing? Like, what can I do now to be in a better position then? So that way I'm not struggling, because like I don't have any retirement. I don't.
Right.
I'm not doing a 401k. I don't believe in them.
And so you want to find a way to actually have a way to be prepared. And like there's a big argument for not obsessing, because it'll just distract you. I had another thought there. I may just go back to, but
worrying's like a rocking chair.
What's that?
Worrying's like a rocking chair. Gives you something to do, but doesn't get you anywhere.
That's right. Yeah, you're moving, but you're not going anywhere. Yeah. Good.
But
good
I mean, goals are kind of in line with this, right? Because like we've sprinkled in goals here and there.
Yeah.
But that is some of the things that we've been talking about here. Let me get my train on the tracks.
Yeah, if you wanted, sorry, real quick question for you between goals and communication. To ask you going forward with goals, would you have? Well, no, you've done a pretty good job with your goals, haven't you, through life, relatively? No, okay, so go for it.
I've never been a goal setter myself.
Okay,
it's just kind of try to do something until.
Yeah, me neither. Like I didn't, I thought things happened for me so naturally when I was younger. Like I was good at stuff, so I didn't think I ever had to try, and that's a big pitfall.
It's just, like, I didn't really have that. I just wasn't motivated.
Well, that too. Well, that is a form of unmotivation. Trust me. Like building habits, and that's a habit thing. That because like you will, because of people that don't have good habits from their youth for whatever reason, usually it's parenting or some sort of like. It really is
almost 100%
yes,
parenting.
Yes. So if you don't have these things built into you, for me to believe that way, it was easy for me to do that because I didn't want to fall back on or look at maybe my habits aren't the best, or maybe it is a self-identification thing. It is a looking and reflecting back on stuff. So again,
but like on that, like my mom didn't push me much. Dad wasn't around for most of it, so like I just didn't have.
And it's
that
hard.
guiding
I'm not
force.
here to beat up on parents because like I know it's not. I know
I'm a parent and I can.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. You beat up on them.
I feel like failure as a parent all the time.
Yeah. It's probably an easy thing to feel like because like you're trying to control the tide, man.
You're trying to not damage your children mentally, emotionally, physically.
No, physically.
Yeah. You're trying to teach them responsibility and that there are consequences for things. Yeah. But, there's this fine line between abuse and like all these things.
There's a fine line between a lot. Like there's there's a fine line between a lot of things. I find, just for myself, I can only speak for myself, but the more a parent engages with a child, because, and this comes down to where's your attention once you have children? Because I've always said once you have children, that's your big ticket. And I understand, like I appreciate people who do more and can balance everything. That is awesome. That's wonderful. But for so many people, I find that they do not address the complexity and the attention that children need because coming from my perspective, both me and my brother, there are things that should have been there are things that should have been like there should have been more attention given to us. There should have been more parenting. There should be more interaction. Not like I don't mean parenting like discipline. Like, people think of like discipline. Discipline is not necessarily a bad thing, but giving your time to your children is the most important thing you can do when you're a parent, and that means engaging with them for good hours every day or night. To me, because I've seen firsthand where not leads and how it can affect family and then the dynamic of the whole larger family. Yeah.
Your community. And
yeah. And it does. And that's another thing. That's actually the goal of, do you mind me going into that a little bit?
Hold on. Cause I want to piggyback on what you're saying there a little bit.
Go for it.
Is about, the question, whether intentionally or not, has been brought up, what does it mean to provide? Mm-hmm. And that's what I was searching around for, is where I had the epiphany. Okay. I don't remember if I was reading something or if it was a podcast that I was listening to or whatever. That part's irrelevant now. Yeah. But I did have this question myself, like, what does it mean to provide for your children? Okay. Because for a long time, providing, especially as a man, meant they have food, shelter, clothing, and
the basics.
You're at work.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to interact with your children because you're giving them things and you're giving them the things that they need, and that's how you love them.
Exactly. That's a great point. That's a wonderful point.
But we're understanding better that no, providing for your children, like, those things are important. You need, like, this is your responsibility. You made this choice for these people to be here. You have to do this for them. But you have to do the emotional side thing, the emotional side of things too.
And I'm not talking about like, as we touch on this, the emotion side and all that stuff. I'm not talking about crying it out for no reason with your kid. If that needs to happen, that's going to happen, whatever, right? but engaging with them, and not always waiting for them to come to you. If you and again, I'm not an expert. I can only speak of my past and where I've seen for multiple generations where things have affected. I as an artist, I pride myself on being observant. I I like to understand how people move. I understand how people interact with people. It's an interest in especially when as it's a habit I've developed for illustration. So watching and observing people interact and seeing it throughout multiple generations of my family. A mother or father, a parent who interacts, even if it's just, hey, sweetie, you know, this or that. Hey, sweetie, that. Because it's not about ego, right? If the kid doesn't need you right now, you shouldn't feel butthurt. Your job is to be there and say, hey, what's going on, Bucko? You know, hey, Charlie, how you doing, buddy? You know, you want to throw the football around? Cool. You know, I got time for you. Because that's communicating that stuff to him. You want how's your schoolwork coming? Is it this suck? It sucks. All right, what sucks? You know what I mean? Just if they say no or they blow you off, cool. You know, maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe it's teen things. Whatever. Because that's not about your ego. This isn't about you. This is about the kid. Yeah. You know, you be an adult. You know, because yes, it might sting a little bit. But, you know, hey, at least you can look at it as...
Well, but by doing that, you're showing them respect and that you respect their boundaries.
Yep.
And having those boundaries, knowing where they are and understanding
That's
those.
Important.
It is important because you both...
It gives them strength. I mean, just strength of character.
And it you know, maybe they just want to figure it out on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. That's great.
And that is an important thing.
It
You're
is
constantly
very important.
doing everything for your kid. They're
exactly.
Let them just as big of a monster as the kid that's ignored.
Exactly. Let them go do it and let them fail. You know, I'm not saying coddle them. I'm absolutely.
But this is, while we're on it, that's kind of one of my theories with like Columbine and a lot of these.
Well, there's this is that subject. Absolutely.
Is, you know, these are kids that are coming out of this era of both parents absolutely have to be at work.
Yes.
And
there is
no
a
interaction
need,
with
right?
the parent
yes,
at all.
There is a cry for attention. That is absolutely a cry for. There is a need for attention. And I'm not going to try to demonize these kids because, you know, God knows I've never been in that position. I don't know. That was my generation. You know, that happened the year after I graduated. You know,
I was still in school.
Yeah, you were still in school. So yeah, so you too.
I still had.
I mean, and it's pretty local here.
I still had 3 years.
Yeah, you were a freshman
left.
Yeah. So or sophomore, whatever. How you count.
Anyways, no, like I remember having nightmares.
So. Yeah, it didn't affect me at all. Like I was still going to school and some things happened, but that's tough. That's interesting.
Nightmares.
Yeah, right. But so again, like that breaks down from that's an outcry for that's a need. There's something not happening, and this is the result.
Yes.
Yeah. And like people can say, "Well, no shit, Barry," But yeah, there's like you guys say like, okay, well, what would you have done? You know, a parent has to question themselves. A friend, an adult has to question themselves. Well, what could I have done? Because like, there's a lot of people we will say, okay, well, I'm gonna pass that buck on that person because that person's just weird. And this comes back to a core value of mine that I want to say real quick is you have to have it as an individual. I believe you have to have the strength of character to understand it's not always about you. When you engage somebody else, a stranger, somebody within your community, because if you're right there with them, they are within your community. Mm-hmm. No matter where you are, if you're in a foreign ground, at that point, that's your community because you are visiting. You are integral. Is that the word? You know, you're part right then. Like if you're a tourist, you are an important part of their community. You're part of their lifeblood of money, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So you take that time. It's not about your damn ego. It is about saying, hey, maybe this person's a little bit off. We're a little weird. Don't be afraid. And if they're weird, you know, it doesn't hurt you. It might put you off a little bit, but it's not going to kill you to interact with people at a position that takes you out of your common, you know, ground or
which
keeps you off balance.
Large part of what our next episode is going to be about, which is The Power of Talking to Strangers. Oh, yeah. It's that book. It's a book written by
I didn't even do that on purpose. That's funny. We should read that book.
Well, I did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
That's what we were supposed to be recording tonight, but whatever.
This is a good prelude to that, though, since I good intro or good lead into.
No, the funny thing that I've been saying for a little while now, because it's 100% true. Pulled it from Sam Tripoli over at Tinfoil Hat. Judge me, I don't care.
I'm not.
I'm not talking to you, Barry.
I know, but I've been there where I love to judge people.
But no, it's something he actually got from AA or NA, whatever.
NA?
Narcotics Anonymous.
Yeah. I was trying to just combine them all. NRA.
NARP.
KGBR.
Anyways, it's ego is not your amigo.
That's right. You, and the reason is like strength of character is your amigo. And people will say, well, without your ego, I have to have some. You have to have some ego, right? You have to have some self-vested interest.
Well, and people I think a lot of times people conflate ego with confidence.
That's true, but the thing is,
even though they're used synonymously,
your own self-interests are great to always look out for and always have. But if you're worried about hurting your ego and all that, it's not going to. When you do, what happens when you hold back from things, that doesn't make you stronger. When you tighten, when you ostrich head into the sand, which is actually not true, they don't actually do that. But when you ostrich head or when you turtle shell, it takes away from yourself. It takes away from society. Contrary to the popular belief nowadays, making every place a safe place doesn't help anybody. We understand that there's a context to that, and we understand what you're trying to achieve. But when you say, okay, deep breath, I'm going to talk to this person, or deep breath, I'm going to let this person air it out. I'm going to let them do that, or however you might, whatever that choice is, you have to, when you're aware of it, hopefully you are. It's not going to hurt your ego, and in fact, it strengthens you. You have a moment to reflect, and you actually can take something from that that's more valuable.
Well, on that a little bit, Art of Manliness, episode. Had an author on. I don't remember his name, but
he's great guys who write good things.
Well,
we don't give a damn about him.
Brett was not the author. Brett is the host of Art of Manliness, but he had this author on, and this is ironic that I can't remember his name because the episode was about memory.
That's awesome. That is so good.
Anyways, so I do remember that they were talking.
Author's point?
There's several, but they were talking at one point about making a safer space for like elderly. Mm-hmm. They forget how to navigate those things because they're just not in practice of it anymore, and they end up actually having more falls and doing more damage to themselves. Because they end up in a situation where they don't know how to navigate around things. Well, but it's the same true for young children that aren't put in situations where they have to learn to navigate things and watch out for danger. Is that, and as they grow older, they're more susceptible to causing unintentional harm to themselves because they didn't learn how to navigate these things before.
And that's a great point. And you see this all the time in society right now. You honestly do. When we see, when we feed into this, I'm trying really hard not to step on people's toes that really do generally believe that the opposite. But my frame of thought, and throughout history, it's been proven, et cetera, et cetera. But my frame of thoughts and my ideas is that. Well, I lost my train of thought, but like any time that you have a difficult, like you don't grow by being any small stuff, because again, we're going to change, and if you want to change for the positive, that's called growth. Now, time is going to move forward. I mean, like it's relative, right, but again, so you want to grow. Pressure makes things, you learn how to deal with hardship, right? like think about like driving, for example. No one like how many kids suck when you put them behind a wheel the first time, right? Not every kid grew up on the farm, learned how to drive,
but even
with
so,
tractor. Yeah, even those kids, you know, there was Billy on the tractor going to fall off.
Started off a lot earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to, and you're in that's a very good, you know, element right there. You're with grandpa or grandma, whoever's running the tractor, and you know you're going 5 miles an hour.
Yeah,
and you understand the mechanics and the system of the dang thing, and it's a great, comfortable, familiar position to have a child in. A lot of kids, you know, struggle and they don't feel comfortable with, you know, driving, so they wait for longer. And it's so much more important to have children being familiar, especially with something that's so out of their control and out of humans' control as a vehicle, because the vehicle can go so insanely fast and be so dangerous. And we all know that.
That's why we need to start putting the onus back on pedestrians.
Well, yeah, we know. Yeah, that exactly.
I'm sorry.
No, as a person who walks everywhere, no, like, you know, I've lived in Portland. I've lived in cities where, you know, you don't expect somebody to stop for you. Like, I know there are vast rules, especially back there, for, you know, yielding to the crosswalk person or anything like that. But for our society, just for to touch on this again, yeah, man, like, you need to understand that vehicle weighs 10 times more than you do.
It's what, 6 car lengths to come to a complete stop at 3 miles an hour.
Yeah, I'm saying like the steel. Well, I guess not steel anymore, but the engine itself is still metal. The engine on the average weighs 400 pounds plus. You know, then you have a lot of other things that are, you know, the wheels.
Frames are still.
Yeah, most of the frames are still steel. So you have a vehicle that's a lot heavier than you are. Trust me on this. And then you have the mathematics of momentum.
But not just that, like, all the safety regulations that have been put on cars now, like how big I don't know their actual term, but where it comes from the hood up to the roof of the car.
The spoiler or the windshield?
No, where the windshield fits in. So you got those two on the front and on the back. You've got your anchor points or whatever.
Okay.
They've required that those things be so thick now for like rollover safety,
right?
But at the same time, with them being so big, like, it's amazing how much
you
4 or 5 inches.
No, yeah, like that's
creates a blind spot.
Yeah,
like,
blind spot for sure.
I've trucks, that. Vans.
Yep.
I have not been able to see in
my
my
that's
cars.
That's something.
So imagine a person. Yeah. Like, I've almost hit people on bikes because I legitimately didn't see them until they're right in front of me.
There is a. When you're 70 yards back, which isn't much in a car, and someone starts going across a crosswalk, that's especially at that angle, you know, coming from your left. I mean, you're right there, and again, like, I'm not making.
Anyways,
I'm not making excuses for drivers, but any time, I'm just saying that this is about being responsible, owning it, being comfortable, having the ability to actually function within society, giving back.
One of my things was responsibility.
Yeah, well, I didn't write it down, but you don't want me to get me going on ownership. So
yeah, I know, and that's one thing I think is definitely missing, that I've noticed is definitely missing in society, is this lack of responsibility.
Yeah,
and
that's recent. That's recent, very much so. And it does come with, I'm sorry to cut you off for a second. It comes with our society again. I'm going to touch on this multiple times throughout the podcasts, so I apologize ahead of time.
It's going to be reoccurring.
It's going to be reoccurring for sure, especially, but as our society...
I've got notes on it and talking to strangers. So.
Our society is at such a point of comfort, of luxury, that these things happen, and it just happens. That's why we have to keep on moving forward, to keep on thinking, to keep on having an open mind, and the discussions that lead to these thoughts and these understandings. Because if you're not aware of it, if you don't push on it, if you don't say, okay, you know, what can I do? Especially when you have free time. Which, sorry, but as much as we want to complain and say, oh man, that was tough, we all relatively have free time. I know people who have chronic diseases. Right. Who push the envelope more than I do, and if that can happen,
oh yeah,
mother effer.
But
you know?
No, it's not just. I mean, a lot of it is mostly self-responsibility. But it's other kinds of responsibility.
Yeah, and it's being even caring. It is a general courtesy and caring about people. And I'm not trying to fucking sit on a goddamn. Sorry, I'm not trying to sit on or stand on a soapbox. I believe
what we're here for, Barry.
Yeah, it is.
This is
all a big soapbox.
We should just call the podcast Soapbox.
I hate you sometimes. Again, but it is. You want to say, well, you care about people, then okay, then how? I don't want to. I'm not going to sit here and share your thing 500 times, but I am going to have, and that is actually a thing of mine. Is when I get communication is. We care about society. We care about individual. We care about each other. That doesn't mean you share my art piece 5,000 times and say, "Hey, one up for me, buddy. I've done my good for society."
Right.
It is personal engagement, and if you don't have time for that, you need to reevaluate how you interact and how you think of yourself, because that moves no needle.
No, it's Jason Stapleton talks about it all the time. People confusing activity with action.
Yeah. Or just with interaction. Interaction.
Well, because there's between being on Facebook and arguing with people.
Yeah.
Or like even us doing this, like we can talk till we're blue in the face about all this stuff. Yeah, but as long if we're not actually doing something, like one of our big things, the part of the whole reason why we're doing this, which you were going to allude to earlier.
Well, boots on the ground, as we talk about.
Is community.
Yeah.
That's like one of the main focuses of this is building of community, strengthening community.
And do you mind if I say, go on that, why it's important to me anyway?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, because you're in, again, I talked about this earlier, how you're within the community. You are in a community. It goes from you, your family, community. I believe, as our structure is set up, government-wise, city, state or county, then state, and then, or even smaller. But you can. That's the gist of it. So, you are being affected by your community, and you are affecting your community. No matter how much, again, you want.
Whether you're actually doing something.
Yes. Whether or not you believe. Whatever you believe, that is the absolute truth of it. Whatever rapper you think you want to throw anywhere, how many rappers? I know. Trust me. How many rappers you want to pick up? Still, and good on you. Thank you. That still means that you still have to talk to the people that might have thrown them out. Like that might have been you one time. That might have been your friend. That might have been.
Or sometimes even just doing it.
Right. My point really is that. That is an action, but those people are still within your community mostly. They're not all just driving through. Although, it's possible, especially, not a town like this, very possible they're just driving through. But the fact of the matter is you still may have to talk to that person. And you can't escape that fact. So it's important that I believe is that you actually take a moment. It doesn't take anything. It doesn't hurt your ego again. That's going to be a reoccurring theme for me is don't cry about, something.
A lot of ways it can actually help your ego, though.
It does. Exactly. Because like, even if like they say F off, buddy, I'll do what I want. Guess what? You have a moment. Because a lot, sometimes if you, the fact of the matter is if you're out there cleaning up the community, or if you're out there taking action on stuff, usually you're a pretty able individual. Usually you're getting after it in other ways. You're pretty physical, or you're able to do other things. So maybe you can have a chance to smash this jerk's face in. But if you take a chance and you don't do that, that feels a lot better. Trust me. Mm-hmm. That feels a lot better. It does. Like, and if you're like having moments about, well, maybe I should have that moment. You need to, that's a moment for you to reflect and even talk to your friend about that. Talk to people about that. That's another thing.
On that, I was going to say this earlier, but I think a Mike Tyson quote, I think that's the last place I at least can attribute it to. Mm-hmm. Is if you try, you've done more than most people.
Yeah.
But
which is there's a lot of quotes that I can go off of that with.
But same thing with that. Like, if you don't talk to them, they're going to continue to throw it out.
Yeah.
You could talk to them, and you might end up in a fight. You probably not. But,
yeah. Very few people will actually want to fight. Look at our society.
Maybe they just don't realize.
Yeah. No. Again, maybe it was just like, you know what, they're loaded to the gills with busy, and like, this is a person actually busy. And granted, we all are busy. I know, and they're not maybe they're not taking time. But for whatever reason, their mind is off, and they just let that rapper go.
Yep.
Right? Or the wind blows out of their hand, and they're not going to chase it down. Yeah, F that rapper.
Or maybe they just don't care.
At which point, whatever is fine. Yeah.
At which point, now you know for sure, and you don't have to waste your time on them anymore. Yeah. Just pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Again, and you don't have to like, hey, buddy, I'll get your rapper for you. You don't have to do that. No, you don't try to do that. That's a one-upsman. Again, that's your ego.
Yeah.
Keep yourself cool.
But no, community. The reason why I find it so important and why it originally made my list, and it still is technically, even though it's not, it's something I need to work on for sure.
I think, yeah, absolutely. I all the time.
Mine is coming from a more political start at any rate.
Well, we talked about that, right?
For me, it started off as trying to move things in a political way.
Right.
And trying to affect a political movement.
Yes, he did.
And I've put my ego in check and pulled it back from that. And it's really coming down to, if something happens, I want to know that the people that are around me are going to be on my team.
That's right.
No matter what your political affiliation or anything is.
Yeah.
Democrat, Republican, even Nebraskan, doesn't matter to the people in Scotts Bluff.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut you off.
Scotts Bluff first.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm gonna cut you off. So no. I'm a good driver. Trust me. Don't worry. Don't worry. All right. So last few years, it got a little dicey. Like, everyone was worried about, what could erupt, right? Socially, what can erupt, what can go down. So worst case scenario is things start erupting violent wise across the nation. What are you gonna do? Most people will not last long welding and hammering and shutting down their houses.
Yeah.
It's not feasible. So where makes you think, okay, so what do I do? Well, my neighbor's my friend, or, Johnny down the road is my friend, or across town. So, but the thing is you have to, for you'll be a lot much safer, you're a lot better off. And this used to, back in the day, family was a lot more important, and large generational family was a lot more important. But I don't know that person across the street. For example, if hypothetically thinking, that's my neighbor. Like, imagine if like someone came into town, guns blazing, and they were attacking them. Are you going to let that happen? No. So are you going to let your neighbor struggle with just the most menial thing, right?
Yeah.
So you want to put your boots on the ground. You want to take the time. You don't have to move the effing world for them, but you want to take the time and be conscious of it and be aware of it to be within your community, to be within. If you cannot do your town or even wherever, your city block, right, or your neighbors within this, your little neighborhood, wherever you have right there. It's not all. You're not going to come. Most people are not going to be comfortable doing anything, reaching out for anything. People aren't comfortable accepting things. That's the world we've made nowadays.
Yes.
And
we're very isolated.
Yeah, and we can go into that maybe next podcast, because there's a whole conversation.
That is actually a part of the Talking to Strangers.
Yes, Talking to Strangers.
So
that's good. So,
but
it's important to.
Part of what brought me around to this way on this is, like, as an anarchist, one of the things that people always do. You've done at it. Yeah. You've done it. Well, you've got your city water, and somebody comes in, and what are you going to do about it? I've got my community, man. I don't care if they have an army. I've got we're our army.
Yep. Yeah, that's the, like, trust me, and a lot of, and I'm sorry, but very few violent entities are something like, for example, people think like ISIS. Okay, very few are that organized, even to that level, and we still think of them as a right. Yeah, exactly. Things have changed recently, but that's a whole other conversation. But like that, exactly. So if things went crazy across our nation, God forbid, and that would be very sad and horrible. But if it did happen, and you had your community and you had your city backing you when a unknown force came into your area to do harm, to do horrible things. And yes, this is the most radical, drastic examples. But trust me, most of them, if they see a force, not even that large, but just a force rising up to confront them, they're dissipating. They are going away. They are not going to.
Anybody who's smart too knows that invading force is not going to be successful against
especially
the home team.
Yeah. You're not familiar. It's unfamiliar ground and unfamiliar territory. There's a list of it. I'm just saying. Usually, a lot of posturing, right? A lot of posturing is just sizing somebody else up. That's posturing, and it's not like people want to get extreme about things. Trust me, it's just one of those things. That would dissipate immediately.
But I mean, it's also as simple as like real world. There are laws that they're talking about. I mean, domestic terrorism is a thing that they're really pushing. Well, that some people are really trying to push the idea of.
Depends on.
But
it depends.
I mean, you have parents in some places across the country who've been called domestic terrorists by their school boards because they've showed up in force.
Yeah,
but
opposition sometimes.
So
is called domestic terrorism.
Like it's something that concerns me a little bit
because
I am outspoken against the government.
There are things that people will fall back on these days, especially if they cannot out-reason you, they will call you either a terrorist or a racist. If they can, and that's just a fact of the world we live in these days. They will call somebody until they realize unless you're, especially if it's a white group or majority white, if there's a majority of mixed races or minorities, unless that was actually in there, then they wouldn't go that direction.
Yes,
because that's happened. I was actually in comparison because there's a guy that commented on a few people I follow, and he's like, these are my point of views, and I'm also black, and I'm conservative, and these people are calling us racist, and these are.
Then he gets called the blackface white supremacy.
Exactly, he gets called Uncle Sam, doesn't he?
Uncle Tom.
Uncle Tom. Well, I've heard. Yeah.
Uncle Sam is in regards to the country.
That's right. Yeah. Sorry, Uncle Tom. Yeah.
But yeah. No. Back to on that. My point was, like, we have cops here. Obviously, if that police officer sees me if he knows me, or they know me, whoever, because I work with 2 police wives. Yeah. So like, I'm not just this guy. Yeah. I'm your wife's coworker.
Yeah. I'm exactly making those communal ties stronger. And I'm not saying
so it makes it more difficult. Yeah. In the long run for these things that have been happening to happen.
Yeah, and these things, and again,
it's not impossible.
I'm not talking about end of the world stuff. It doesn't have to be addressed towards the end of the world stuff. It can be addressed of understanding the person you're yelling at across the internet. You know what I mean? Because like, what we have to worry about and what we have to really care about are the people next to us. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what's important. Those are the people within your city, within your community, within your block. Those are the people that you can have immediate impact on. You actually you live next to that. You live there. You breathe the same air.
1,000 friends on Facebook. Yes. How many of them are going to be by your side tomorrow when?
Yeah. I have. Yeah. Say I'm some podcaster or YouTuber and I have 1 million followers. Those 1 million ain't going to be right there. I appreciate what they can say to get my back on social media, and that's lovely.
Yeah,
but actually supporting me. Actually, like, you know what? This city is struggling with food, or this block or this part of town or that little, we have a twin sister city here. I don't know how. I know it's all relative, but if they're struggling and when things get rough, as we've seen can get rough, the better relations are the more your community knows you care, they're going to care back. There is going to be effort. There's going to be time taken. And that's where you can make an impact. We can't, like, I can yell all I want about Washington. Unless I'm a multi-million-dollar guy or a billionaire, how much I can affect them is very little. I'm sorry.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah. Unless I'm a big booster, I'm sorry. But, and there's more to that. I know. That's an example. So the whole point is you want to affect, if you youth especially.
If you want to make a change, start at home.
Yeah, start right there. Start with the people that breathe the same air as you do. I
had another thought earlier, but I forgot it.
Well, that helps. Thank you.
Anyways, so yeah, that's community.
Yeah, that's my thoughts on.
But because it's not that you have to know literally everybody in your community either.
And you don't have to kiss ass. It's not like you don't have to like them all. I don't like Bran.
This is called
his beer's better than mine. I'm jealous.
This area of Nebraska called the middle of nowhere, but the combined area has a population of 30,000 people. So it's not tiny.
It's close to 50. The surrounding areas about.
No, I mean Scottsbluff.
Oh, Scottsbluff Gearing is easily. It was 32 last census.
But so it's like even at that low of a level,
that's a small area, right? But still,
that's considered small. But it's impossible to know that many people.
Yeah,
but you have to know Dave, and Dave knows Chuck, and Chuck knows Susie.
Yeah,
and
I thought her name was Susan. Man, you guys are in better terms than that.
But it's this red line that's connecting all of us.
It is. Yeah, it is. And that's called what? That's called community.
I'm gonna bring Dave, and Dave's gonna bring Chuck, and Chuck's gonna bring Susie, and Susie's gonna bring Daphne.
And it sucks. There's a disconnect, right? When I see a friend lose a friend that they loved online, I feel bad for it in a way, but I don't know that friend, and I barely know my friend who's online anymore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And even communal wise, I see people locally that have passed, elderly or youth, from whatever it might be to this or that. But if you don't know them,
Betty White just passed. How many people were devastated by that?
Well,
and I know she's a celebrity and she had an impact on a lot of people's lives.
Context, but that's yeah.
But you didn't know her personally.
You're what we are.
But your neighbor.
We take a moment to say, oh well, Betty White, because you want to be significant at that point in time, right? You want to be on the yes band.
Well, I'm just saying, on a personal level, how many people felt devastated by her death, but the guy who's been running the soup kitchen for 20 years just passed away in your community, and you don't even know his name.
Even better, so people loved, for your example, Betty White. People loved Betty White for her firecracker, personality. There are ladies in our community that I know when I walk into the coffee shop, they're the same awesome way, you know what I mean? And so you like that person out, you want to celebrate that type of person, go talk to them, the elderly folk. So man, they're the same way. All of them people are badass in the same way. They all have their good thoughts, and even if you don't agree with all of them, which a lot, I have everyone has their own thoughts, but they're just as kick ass as Betty White was, and they are just as funny, and just as wild.
But not only that, you're gonna learn real stories from them.
Exactly, the conversation is just is good stuff. It's cool. It's really interesting.
You're gonna learn from them. They're gonna learn from you. Yes. You're gonna learn about yourself. Tying it back around.
What do you mean?
Right now, we've got this conspiracy board where everything.
I'm out of pins.
Let's see here. What else? I think we beat communities to death.
I think it's a good tie
for the moment.
I think it's a good tie back around from going back to knowing yourself and communicating. So I think we should try to wrap it up at that point.
I don't know. You got anything else?
Yeah, but I can planning, communication. And focus,
because I definitely want to hit on curiosity, because that's part of it. It ties into the community, being curious about the people around you.
Well, would you rather be
about yourself?
Would you rather be fearful or curious? Just as traits in your personality.
Our current events,
exactly,
with COVID.
Yes,
how it, and that's why it made my list.
Again, we are for safety. We are for taking care of your people, but there is context and nuance between this.
But I've seen so many of these, of people, I've been wearing a mask and I stayed in my house and I did all the things that I was told to do, got the vaccine and stuff, and I still got sick. And there's no curiosity in their mind at all. There's no creativity there at all for them to go, wait a minute, maybe I was lied to. Maybe this isn't.
Well, maybe I lost money, and somebody else has made a lot of money, and a lot of social classes lost a lot of money. A lot of upper classes made a lot of money. So.
Well,
we can get into that next time, but
yeah, that's a whole other thing, and not really what this is about.
But you're right. Curiosity, have a chance and a moment to reflect, and again, own your ego, be aware, and be curious.
But another one that I think this is the one that probably started me on this path is
the path.
Game developer or somebody in game development industry. Shortly after the vaccine, they were fully vaccinated. Still got sick.
Yeah.
And their first response was to blame it on the unknown unvaccinated. But you're vaccinated yes. And you still got sick. Yes. You could have gotten it from somebody, but there's not that curiosity to go, wait a minute, I was told in the beginning this is 95% effective against this. And I still got sick.
The 5% wins out over the 95%, don't you know?
But,
that's the larger percentile.
But it just that's the more recent examples.
And that's not. Is that reasonable? Is that is that something to look up to? Like, is that honestly like? Do you respect take an example and say, well, I want to be like that person?
No, that person.
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone reasonably does want to. And I understand. Wanting to try to, I understand being afraid of the craziness of it, right? When it all hit, when it started piling up, everyone was like, okay. But
everybody,
was
leery, not leery, but
I think there was a lot of
cautious
caution.
Of it, and they were aware. They were very much aware of it.
Yeah.
So, but it didn't take long for real information to come out, and for the people who have been silenced.
Yeah, the funniness to start cycling back around, and all the questions that are legit questions and examples and actual things that have happened to come out. And again, this is not us being conspiracy theorists. This is actual factual. Yourself. I'm sorry, I lost my hat.
Anyways, but I don't even know what you're saying.
But
I lost my.
But again, that points to a point of where we let fear just destroy. We could have let fear destroy the nation.
Curious,
if you're curious,
you're proper curious.
Yeah. Well, there's a bad point where curiosity does kill a cat, but there's a point where curiosity should be there because A, B, and C did not the ideas in your head, your plan did not go according to plan. So D's saying this, then stop yourself, pull yourself back. Again, own your ego. Just take a breath.
Curiosity grants you access to knowledge and wisdom.
Tell it to the dead cat.
If you have that, and we.
You have sovereignty over yourself. Really, you're trying to focus back on self.
I talked about this in the episode that wasn't.
It was just so epic. We cannot. Again, if we let that air,
this is just
it's going to solve many problems in the world. This is a tribute to that one. Pour it out.
Oh man,
Bran's cooking himself out.
But I mentioned while I was listening to speeches by Malcolm X, his ultimate collection of Malcolm X speeches, right, on Audible. But there's stuff from other people, and the second one is this 2-hour-long speech by Louis Farrakhan. And in that, he talks about clothing yourself in knowledge. Now, mind you, he's talking specifically about quote-unquote God's knowledge. But
it is relative.
If you just pull out that one word and just call it knowledge in general, you can protect yourself from fear. Because at the time he's giving the speech, it's also a really crappy snowy time in Detroit. 50 below.
Yeah. So because
And
it doesn't take much to get shitty weather, cold weather in Detroit.
But I mean, like 50 below and talking about people. Michigan. But, also talking about, we wear these garments to protect us from the elements. So if you have knowledge, you can protect yourself from these other elements. Again, that being fear. Yeah. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate.
And fuck then, off, Yoda. Young Jedi. No, but there is something that is absolutely no. There is absolutely again. The more prepared you are within your situation, the more you get back to being comfortable, getting to a point where you can say, okay, where's my point A, and then I can go from there. Being familiar, being comfortable, that is a huge thing. Just stops a lot of things, a lot of people from panicking. Yes, and that in itself. Because and I know again, like apparently, like people were pointing out, and it's insane to me. Like actually, factually, seems the most ludicrous thing. But fear is almost a virtue now. Talk about how I was so afraid of this.
It's the victim mentality.
Yes, it is the victim mentality, and it goes back to and leads into that stuff. And trust me, if that's what you want, play that out. Like you're gonna get. Yeah, you're gonna get that and play that out. That leads nowhere prosperous. That strengthens nobody. We're talking about growth and propping each other up and letting different cultures and all this stuff just thrive in this country. Man, being a victim does not lead anywhere but to the same destruction. Well, yeah. Well, no, it leads to destruction. If you play it out to zero, it just leads to nothing but just insane depravity. Is that how I say it right? Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, being no one wants to be a victim. You don't have to be flipping Superman, but but be able, be able to be prepared, be able to look out for your friends, be able to be prepared and be strong enough and care enough to actually have that moment to care, that clarity to care. Otherwise, you're stuck panicking.
Knowledge, understanding, it also leads to growth.
Yes. Yeah, in your curiosity does. You're going back to the arts. What leads to frustration? Fear. Well, I can't do this. I don't have time for this. Panicking. I can't do. You get frustrated from that thing. If you are curious, if your curiosity and your moment wants to be, you are creative in this thing. Well, then go do it. There's a lot of if you let it yourself get overwhelmed with thoughts of negativity and fear. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna pull this card out too. Real quick. Another episode of Art of Manliness. No, but I mean it really is a good podcast.
No, absolutely, I believe you.
Great show. Just for the people out there. I'm not talking to you, Barry.
I am the only mother.
Anyways, yeah, I forget all the specific details, but one of the points that I pulled out of this specific episode is that your life perspective isn't made by your experience. It's based on the things that you pay attention to.
What? Well, I mean, like your life, your perspective actually, absolutely is influenced by your experiences.
Somewhat, but it's more shaped by the things you pay attention to.
Wouldn't it be like maybe a melding of the two?
To a degree, yes.
Because I think it depends on what point of life you're in. Because if you're a youth or a young child in that home, and you have again like a real great family,
so I'm gonna go down.
That's your experiences. That's your perspective.
But how many people have that and still think their life is crap now and whine and complain and have that victim mentality because of the things they pay attention to? And this is where I'm going to go with it.
That's insane. You just hurt my mind.
So you get in a car accident, right? Yeah. This is an experience that you have. Break your spine.
So you're talking mindset.
You're not able to walk anymore. Get to a degree, yes. Yeah. This is something that has affected your life. Yeah. It's part of your life experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you pay attention to the people who tell you you're not going to do anything, you're not going to do anything.
Right.
But if you know you can still do all these things, you're going to focus on doing that. The same thing with COVID.
Yes.
If you pay attention to certain things with COVID,
Yes.
that's going to be your experience with COVID.
Yeah. That's your.
If you're paying attention to other things, that's your experience with COVID.
I agree with what you said. That's a good point. Well, it's I've never heard it say like that. It's a 4-minute mile. Before his name escapes me right now, but before that old dude 70 years ago broke the 4. People didn't think that the mile could be ran within 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. Now it's high schoolers do it.
Yeah.
The top ones. So, it's still clearly hard. What?
Nope.
Okay. So, but,
inappropriate.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, still, it's done. So yeah. So your perception and what you choose to believe does very much shape your reality. Absolutely.
Right. Because you could have all these. As I was talking about with the curiosity, people, right? Yeah. That all of these things happen, but because you got the vaccine and did all these things, you still got sick. You blame it on the unvaccinated because that's all you've paid attention to. Whereas, because I've paid attention to other things, my mind goes, but you still got sick.
Yeah.
And you really, very unlikely that you know where you got it from.
And that very much.
I know where I got COVID from, but that's because it's a small group for me.
Well, yeah. Well, I remember when you so me and you hung out that weekend, right? I'm like, maybe, and again, this isn't like me talking about how wonderful my immune system is, but I eat very clean compared to a lot of people. I had, in the whole thing that's been going on this whole time, I've had a sore throat. You know what I mean? I've never really had all these insane symptoms, and I've been around you. I've been around multiple people that have had it, that told me.
Probably 50 on a conservative level. That's how many people I've interacted with COVID.
Oh man, I go and draw at a freaking coffee shop, man. So, people like.
Well, again, my line of work.
Yeah,
I have to.
Yeah, you're acting. Yeah, and so
I'm on the front lines. Literally, I'm in people's houses who have COVID.
Yeah. See, exactly. Yeah, you would think so. I should, but I'm out there doing I'm not doing that at all. But I'm just out there in the community. Just and our community was never. So, but everyone, you said, hey, the next weekend we had to cancel because you were sick.
Well, but I let you know too.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not. I don't honestly, dude. I've told people this is silly, right? This is a silly moment. This isn't serious. But I've said I'm gonna go find a contaminated area of COVID and just roll around in it because we do at a point want to push our immune system. But it's weird. It's not common. It's not common for you not to get sick from this stuff. And I've had I've had multiple friends who are very close to me after I hung out with them message me and say, hey, I just I'm not gonna be able to do it next weekend or can't have to cancel tomorrow because I got COVID or I've been around people who have COVID, and so I never got sick. So I'm thankful for. I know it's not my immune system. Before I started eating healthy, I was going to the doctor, taking antibiotics constantly.
Yeah.
I'm not some Superman. I'm definitely a product of what I eat and the things I put my mind into. Because Jesus. But anyway, again, back to your point of that was a big tangent. Sorry. Back to your point of fear. Mm-hmm. Again, this goes back to where you want to be within your community, and if you care about it, if you want to make a difference, because that's where a lot of people are, especially these days. You see people want to be activists, and there's a right and a wrong way to do that. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to break it to you, but
yeah, I've never been one for the idea of protesting.
Yeah. Well,
you have every right to protest, but those people you're protesting against have every right to just ignore you.
Yeah.
And they usually do.
Yeah. That's mostly about you. You are out there just for yourself. Just like people who, virtue signal on social media constantly, which is almost almost competition and popular nowadays.
But if you're out there in your community actually doing stuff and
that's
engaging with people.
Again, that's what we're talking about here. So and I haven't brought up a lot, and Brand heard me say it a lot because I listen to his podcast all the time. But Jocko Willink, who I love and is a very knowledgeable man, very learned man.
Yeah, despite what he'll tell you.
Yeah, he loves to call himself a knuckle dragger, but he's
all about the self-deprecation.
Yeah, which is and honestly, the dude has a solid ego, so that's fine too. That whole complexity is
self-identity. He knows who he is.
Again, absolutely, that's great, and his children too. I mean, it's a great dynamic. Sometimes maybe to talk about, but my point is ownership, right? Mm-hmm. Self-ownership, knowing oneself. And do you want to blame somebody else and give them all that power? Or you can say, okay, well, it's on me. So, the fact is I'm sick. The fact is this is where it's at for me. How can I change this? How can I fix it? Because the only damn person in your life that's going to be able to fix that is you. Mm-hmm. Doctors may be a part of that. Your community may be a part of that. The food may be a part of that, but ultimately, in the end, it is you having to take action. So, ownership, identity.
It doesn't matter what you did before. This is where you're at right now. What are you going to do to get yourself out of this?
Exactly. In every moment that happens. So, yeah. It's good right there.
On that. Well, no, because...
No, you're fine.
This is very interesting for me because... just this outlook on this, because while listening to The Power of Talking to Strangers, or The Power of Strangers, whatever it's called, in preparation for the episode that we're going to do for that, I also found myself listening to The Gift of Fear.
Okay.
And the juxtaposition between those two concepts. Interesting dynamic. Because one of them is telling you to go out and talk to strangers. Mm-hmm. The other one is telling you stranger danger.
Right. That's interesting. I mean, I need to read that because there's a whole thing. There's a whole thing I've learned from studying, and again, like John Willing, because somebody put me on this path. A lot of people that I mean, even Tony Daniels to a degree, but fear is an important part of the human mind and the psyche.
Well, and that's one of the things that book's really actually.
And the point, and a lot of it is a lot of it's developed. A lot of it has developed from instinct, from human survival. And right now, within our society, you have an ability to override that. You have an ability to take time and upon yourself to be prepared. You can make yourself physically more fit in a multitude of ways. You can make yourself physically able with hand-to-hand, with a myriad of hand-to-hand defense classes, anything like that. So your excuse, and the excuse that I'm curious to read that book, because the excuse of fear at certain levels within our life, like for children, it's very different, clearly.
Yeah.
But for adults, it's very different. You do not have an excuse to say, "Oh, well, this stranger touched me on the arm because he was showing me where to direct. I can't believe he touched me." Get over yourself.
Yeah.
That's a you issue. Again, the world is as much as we're about knowing yourself, but it's about responsibility. It's about understanding the world does not revolve around you. It's about finding your path.
Right. But the whole reason why I brought that up,
sorry, go ahead,
is that he spends a lot of time talking about, because he doesn't actually spend that much time talking about stranger danger. It's actually a very small part of it.
Okay.
Because realistically, the majority of people who are going to cause us harm are people that we are somewhat intimate with.
We've given them power to do us harm.
Well, there's people in our lives. We know these people. Sometimes they are authoritative figures, like parents or teachers or something. So sometimes they're just friends,
you're talking about the context
or an actual intimate partner. Yes, right. They're within your
realm
circle.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's talking a lot about. He goes into pretty good depth about restraining orders. And they have a place, but if one person in a relationship feels scared or has been threatened by the other person, what do we do most of the time?
Yeah.
Go get a restraining order.
Yeah.
But what good does that do?
Yeah.
Because it's not like the cops are following you around.
Yeah, if something horrible really did happen, that horrible is going to happen.
this ties into the responsibility thing.
Yes.
Which is why I'm bringing this up.
Well, like I said, your responsibility.
You're responsible for your own safety.
Yes.
Because the cop's not going to follow you around unless you have a piece of paper.
Exactly.
You still have to protect yourself.
Yep.
And like, if they're really intent on causing you harm, a piece of paper is not going to stop them. No. A piece of paper is good for somebody you've been on a couple dates with that doesn't have an emotional attachment to you yet.
Honestly, a piece of paper is good for somebody who wasn't going to do anything in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like a hard leave me alone to some guy. It's
all right,
not
I've told you to leave me alone. Now I'm getting this authoritative figure.
Yeah. And often,
authority into it.
Usually it's a complete. It's almost not. This is very much. I've been associated with. I never had somebody get anything against me like that, but I've dated gals that have had to deal with that stuff. I was raised. My parents were foster parents to children that had to deal with that stuff. So I understand that there is a place in our society for that. But
it's not a cure-all Band-Aid.
But yeah, it is a nominal Band-Aid. If somebody is a sick individual and wants to hurt you, the only thing you can do is make yourself able.
Yep. Because you can see me nodding my head.
Yeah. I was like, yes. Yes. So,
what else do we have to beat to death here? Curiosity, responsibility, self-identity, creativity, community.
I think we did a good job. We've pulled things a lot.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Like, we really interwove them. I think. Hopefully, this is not just it's garbled trash this time.
No, it's
not the last time it was trash. Last time was, I'm like, honestly, like we almost should have put like a symphony to it and put it on like for college campuses, and all those children like wrote and done the most masterful works on all their thesis. It just would have made like everyone would have been Einstein.
What are these two morons doing?
Children, this is not what you want.
Yeah.
Children, high school.
That last episode was that last recording was the twilight of the world.
It's end. And it was good knowing you all. I'm sorry for wasting your time.
No, it's just an example of what not to do.
Yeah.
No, this has definitely been better today. I feel we've given each other space and room to talk.
Yeah, because I figure every time you start creeping closer, I'm like, okay, stop, back up. My coffee's cold, which was okay because that Sox coffee was no good in the first place.
So, anyways, that's just there to give you kind of an idea of who we are, where we're coming from.
Yeah, it's a lot of groundwork, but there it is.
I mean, and that's not even the tip of the iceberg.
No, but it does. It holds our values very well. I think that very much illustrates with a hammer where we're coming from.
Yeah, and it's the values that we're trying to get, because this isn't necessarily intended to be a political show.
No, not at all. It's what would you say? What would you? Because me, like, I'm about improvement and community. Like, I care about stuff, and not only just like I'm not telling you guys, hey, improve because I know everything. I'm like, well, I can improve. You can improve. Let's grow together. We can all learn.
We've got some experiences, and we can share those with people.
Yeah,
and hopefully those experiences will help you find some better perspective in the world.
I have trauma I can share with you. That puppy had some sharp teeth, and puppies are mean. Puppies are tough. Don't judge me, okay? I ran away as fast as I could.
Okay.
we might cut that part.
I was wanting to tie that to Zombieland.
Oh.
Ouch. Yeah, so that was the whole point of this one. I think we'll still call it Planting the Seeds. Yes, puppies.
Okay.
This show is all about puppies.
Puppies are great. Animals are great. I love animals. Red pandas are some cute little SOBs, man. They're little... Yeah. Don't you run at me, I'll kick you. I'm big. No, they're hilarious, yeah. Otters are bastards.
Otters are amazing.
Yeah, they're amazing. Like warrior otters, I love them, but they are jerks. Like, they are like raccoons, cats, and puppies into one.
Puppies are amazing.
Until they try to kill you, yeah.
that's just bad training. It's not like a cat that's naturally a jerk.
See, that's what I'm saying about otters. Have you ever seen multiple, like 3 otters, right? A little otter, they're your little otters, dude. They are jerks. Like if there's a puppy there and he's trying to eat his food, the otter will distract the puppy, and he'll look the other direction like you can't see him. He's looking this direction while he eats your food.
Can the puppy see him?
Yes, the puppy's watching. He's like looking at you like with puppy eyes, saying the dick is eating my food. The otter, you'll take your food to the table, and the otter will be like right here. And you'll eat your food, and the otter will be like, grab your food and look away like you can't see him.
I can't see you, you can't see me.
Right. Yes. Clearly. You know the hide and seek part where you just F up and like, you can't see me because I can't see you. Yeah, otter jerks are hilarious, and they do that shit for real. They're like raccoon cats, man, and they're funny. Yeah. But I can go on and on about animals. I'm weird. I'm an artist. I have a book that devoted just to learning how to draw them. So multiple books.
And that's where Barry gained his experience with animals. It's how all of his knowledge
just
from this book.
Just books. Just books.
No, this book teaching you how to draw animals.
Yeah. No, I walk dogs and stuff.
Anyways, normally we would also, well, not normally because this is the first episode, but one of the things that we want to do going forward too is talk about our experiences in the community and
destroy the Death Star.
Why?
Because did you see that railing where those dudes were shooting that laser off of? Okay, that's just gross negligence. Okay, imagine that just
a little very focused
beam of energy throughout that ship. Okay, that is the Empire. Okay, that negligence is just that's a laser beam the size of Wally the whale, man.
Anyways, thanks for listening. Come back for more shenanigans.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, listen, like, share.
Yeah, it's social. It's
social
podcast
media. It's
and YouTube. You know what to do.
Do you? Do you really know what to do? Because if you're not, we're here to tell you.
We do not have an official social media for this, though.
We do not.
Do you have any of your?
Do you have any merch?
No, not yet. Do you have anything else that you'd like to plug for yourself personally?
Not at the moment, but thank you for listening, anybody who does tune in. And if you want to get at us, I'm sure Bran will hook you up with an email you can email him with. Not me.
All right, Todd, calm down. Yeah, I'm not
a good show, right?
All right, bye.
Later.